What's good, good people? Welcome to hashtag My Be More Project. What's the 410? Where we stand in the gap of the news you can use and the positive stories our spirit needs. I'm your host, Dion Joyner Weems. It's like a tribe called Quest. You have to say it all together. And though I wear many hats, they all sit on top of the same mission to uplift, amplify, and empower Baltimore's truth tellers and change makers. Whether that's through hashtag my Be More project, my book That Part, which some know but won't tell you about motherhood, or as the CEO of Audacity Group, a global marketing agency. We tell bold stories. And in 2022, we held a listening session and we found out what you and I already know. People trust people more than they do a system. That's why we've created a space so that we can hear from the truth tellers on the ground doing the work, like Eze Jackson, artist, cultural curator, and community organizer.
What's up? What's poppin'?
All right, so everyone, you're going to see Dion is a lot of grinning coming from me because Eze knows I'm a huge fan of his. This man is so talented, so talented. And to represent Baltimore as hard as he does, a lot of people need to be proud. So, Eze, thank you for taking the time with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dion. You know I love you, yo.
All right, so Eze, I'm going to do a little background, a bio for you. We like to look at this as our like flowers. Okay, so are you ready for your bio?
Yeah.
today we're today we're speaking to a griot of the grind, Eze Jackson, a lyrical mason and one of Baltimore's most trusted voices on stage, on the page, and in the movement. As co-founder of Be More Epic Fam Music and a contributing writer at the Baltimore Beat, Eze tells stories with the people, not just about them, lifting up the city's truth with every verse and every article. From his roots with Soul Cannon to his solo work that hits like sermon and cipher, he stays anchored in rhythm, responsibility, and a real love for Baltimore. Let's welcome Eze Jackson. How was
Oh
that?
man, I love that. That's great.
Uh,
That's great. I might use that.
I'll send it to you
I've
right
been
after
thinking about
this.
writing a new bio anyway. I like
I'm gonna
that.
text it to you right after this. All right, feel free. It's another gift. So before we jump into the questions, we like to give people a taste of the personality behind the person. So we
Hmm.
call this segment They Ate, right? So I'm going to ask you 8 random questions. Don't overthink it. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready
Okay,
for the 8?
I'm ready.
Crab cake, fried or broiled?
Fried
Nickname your parents used to call you or friends?
tank.
Tank. Name one song on your get pumped, amped, fired up playlist.
Ooh, bringing the cats.
Oh, all right, look, Dion, focus. Oh, that's a good one. Um, what do you hope people feel when your name is mentioned?
Ooh, uh, reality.
Would you survive a zombie apocalypse?
Yes.
No question. Describe Baltimore in 3 sounds. Any way you want to take it. Baltimore in 3 sounds.
Man, that's one. That's one of the sounds.
Yes. I, I,
Oh,
I love it.
man, uh, car horns, and the third sound I would say drums.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay. Um, is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
No,
Okay. All right. All right.
no,
If, if
no.
you had 25 hours in a day, what would you do with your extra hour?
Nap.
Nap. All right, people. Easy. He just ate. He ate. He ate. Great job, son. Great job. All right, so I'm going to dive right in, okay? We've already, set up the fact that you have lived and led in Baltimore. And I heard a quote from you that you said, "I've always felt like artists should help push social agenda. My mother raised me on protest music." So I want to know from you, what do you think people misunderstand most about the role hip hop or just music plays in community healing and political organizing?
I think unfortunately in 2025 we've gotten away from the art form, and it's become too much of a business. It's become too much of an algorithm. It's
Mhm,
become, or the pursuit of an algorithm.
mhm,
And it's become too much of we've allowed too many people who don't make art dictate what should happen in the music. So
mhm,
all these record execs and A&Rs and some music journalists, I think, who have never stepped foot in the booth, who have never stepped foot on stage, now are telling artists what they should do, and artists are listening. And I think that's where we've lost the connection to the people, because you'll be like, people will tell you that protest music, or positive music, or music that centers the village and the people won't sell. You know what I mean? But they won't even try to sell it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's we've gotten to this point where artists are now insecure about speaking truth to power, about ruffling feathers, about bringing something different, because they think it's not going to feed them, or they think that they're not going to make any money, or they think they're not going to get support, or they're not going to get followers. And I think that we've got to get away from that. We've got to get back to the culture. When you have like a Spotify, where everybody's got Spotify,
yeah,
and artists are constantly telling people they do not pay us. They don't pay us the amount of money that we're worth. They don't. They're stealing our work. Yet everybody has Spotify on their phone. So I think we've got to get back to the essence of creating the art for the sake of making the art. And when you're doing that, you can't help but speak protest music. You can't help but speak truth to power. You can't help but talk about what's going on.
right, you're right. And as you're speaking, we use "Be Great," my hashtag "my be more" on literally on that song, on everything, because it
Thank you.
directly moves people into action. It directly moves people into change. What did that moment, like when that song came out and it was embraced, what did that teach you about the emotional responsibility of being an artist?
Um. Oh wow! It taught me a lot, because that song is my most successful song, I think, right now. Um. And I initially didn't want it to be a single. I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to open up the album. So it's on my album called Fool, that I dropped in 2019, and I had put so much into that project. I wanted that song and the closing song to be kind of like the bread on a sandwich. And when people gravitated to that song, it taught me that, one, we're in the customer service business, so the customer's always right. Uh, and it taught me to listen to the people. You know what I mean? Because at first I tried to push against it. You know what I mean? I tried to be like, well, there's other songs on the album, and I tried to not, perform it when I was requested and stuff like that. But and a lot of that was because the song was it's such an emotional piece to me, on a personal piece to me, that I didn't feel comfortable, you know, I didn't feel comfortable with how much everybody gravitated towards it. It caught me off guard.
I can understand that.
Now I embrace it. Now I'm very happy, because of the testimony that so many people come back and give me. Like, people are like, "Man, I this song helped me get through a tough time. I wrote that song during a tough time." So it's like, it's meant. my mother used to always say my work comes through me and not from me.
Talk about it.
And Be Great is the first time where I fully, without a shadow of doubt, understood what she meant. Because
Wow.
that's a song that came through me. You know what I mean? And to see it bless people for me is like is it was humbling. It was humbling because I thought people was gonna like I thought people were gonna like Gimme That. I thought Gimme That was that I thought that was the track on the album. You know what I
Now
mean?
that's fire, but that'd be great. Oh my,
Yeah.
it's funny with me being in marketing. When I'm talking to folks, I let them know that once you've created something and you put it out to the public, not saying it's no longer yours, but there are some hooks that you have to take out of this very personal was create, but
Yeah.
now theirs. And that's you, the way that you just explained, Be Great. I'm like, I understand exactly what you're saying. That's
Hmm.
personal, but now you're giving it over to the people.
Yeah.
Um, so Baltimore has always been rich in culture, but I
Hmm.
believe it's poor in how it's valued. Um, what do you think it would look like if the city, not saying that they're not, but they truly invested in artists as essential workers? Like I'm talking about you
Mm.
need them just like you need doctors or you need
Hmm.
trash collector, like all levels. So what would that look like?
I mean, I think you would see, and I think we're starting. I think we're starting to get there, but I think you're going to see a lot less people um, neglecting the possibilities here. Where, and when I say that, I mean we have a history of producing some amazing artists,
Hmm.
and the ones that have made it, they leave,
Yeah.
and the ones and but there's a whole lot that don't make it and they leave because they think that they have to leave to make it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I think that what we need is, and what I try to do as best as I can is, support the local artists, the younger artists as they're coming up, and kind of show them that, you can create your art from home, and actually we need you to build here. We need you to create here so that, other people will come here instead of us having to go out and try to be a part of somebody else's city, somebody else's scene, and navigate through that, which is a lot more difficult than I think people realize. I think people think that, oh, I'm gonna move to Atlanta and there's more opportunity there. Well, you gotta fight, you gotta beat the Atlanta niggas first.
Yeah, yeah. No, no,
You know
real
what I mean?
yeah.
You gotta get through the Atlanta people first. You go out to LA, you gotta get through them LA cats first. You gotta go to New York, you gotta beat out the New Yorkers first. So it's like I would like to see Baltimore become the kind of place where people come here and make it. And we already have had that some examples of that. Like, you got JPEG Mafia who came here and launched his career from here. You got a couple other artists that come here and become a part of you know, our world, but then they leave and they don't really, you know, give anything back. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like a story on their timeline that, oh, I
Mm,
once lived in Baltimore. You know what I mean? And we're the first to really embrace them and show them love. So
right.
it's like we need more. I think we need more artists from here to blow up from here, so that people can see that it can be done.
It's I'm thinking about I text you a few days ago and you were telling me, hey Dion, I'm going to Beats Not Bullets.
Yeah,
One, I'd like for you to talk about your involvement there, but the question is, there is a gap between how young artists or young people move and how institutions try to engage them. And I'd like to know from you, like, what are the things that you wish, or how do we reach that next generation? What are those
yeah,
ways in order to do that?
yeah. I think listening. I always say people ask me that all the time, and I always say listening. Like the best way to reach the young generation is listening, because they are. If I can be honest, I think that the younger, and I'm talking under 30 right now,
Okay.
um, is probably one of the smartest generations of people that we have. And so I think that what we kind of the mistake that we make as elders a lot of time is talking to them. Well, I rather say a lot of times we talk at them,
Anthem.
and they're already seeing the hypocrisy in what we're saying to them. You know what I mean? So if we're, so it's like you got to be careful talking to them too much because there's a lot that they already know, and we can make that mistake a lot of times of assuming that they don't. And then when you listen to them, you find out where to meet them at and how to meet them. And so talking about beats not bullets, shout out to Kevin Beasley, aka Ogun, one of my OGs in Baltimore hip hop. Um, um, we've been doing beats not bullets where we work with young people who are either, you know, at the risk of going into the juvenile justice system. And then most recently, when I talked to you, we were going into the youth jail. Those are we're working with young people that are charged as adults, and it is, it's interesting for me as a parent, and I know you relate to this
Boys.
too.
Yep.
You got three boys, I got three girls, and they're all in the arts. They're all performers. They've all um, grown up in a certain way that you forget that there are other kids out here who are, do not have access to certain opportunities, don't have both of their parents, have trauma, have all kinds of things that they've grown up in. And so to just go at them and say, you don't need to be out here in these streets, you don't need to be doing this, you don't need to do that, you risk the chance of pushing them further away.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I've learned from Ogun, watching Ogun work, is Ogun listens to them and ask them questions first, and then he starts talking to them. And even when he's talking to them, he's asking them questions like, "Do you want to live?"
Mm.
You know what I mean? What do you want? Where do you see yourself? You know what I'm saying? These kinds of things, I think, are questions that we don't ask young people. Even when I watch the discourse online, a lot of times how people just kind of run their mouths about what's going on with the youth. Oh, these parents not doing this and they not doing that. Well, how do you know? You know what I mean? You don't know what's going on. You're just looking at the news and looking at sound bites.
Yeah.
When in all actuality, there's a lot of deep work that needs to be done. And I definitely salute our mayor Brandon Scott. I think that what he's doing with young people, and his investment in young people, I think, is nothing like any mayor I've seen in this city do. No disrespect to any of the other mayors, but I've never seen any of them invest in young people the way that he has. And I think that kind of work we got to continue.
Absolutely. I have to let you know, you kind of got me when the question of do you want to live? I
Yeah.
mean, it's not a lot of words ending with a question mark, and that's such a powerful statement.
Yeah.
I'm curious because life is reflection. What have you learned? Because the lessons that you've learned the hard way, that you found that you've been able to use to connect with the youth that you're speaking to, not at.
Um, I grew up in the '90s, and the first friend of mine was murdered at 14. And by the time I graduated from high school, I had several obituaries. And I think for me, and I think Kevin and the other guys that do Beats Not Bullets, a lot of times we carry this weight of what would it be like if they were still here. And and when I look at our young people that are losing people early like this is normal. This is life for them. I didn't realize that it wasn't normal until I went in the Navy and I met people who had not lost friends yet. You know what I'm saying? And they were my age or older. You know what I'm saying? And had not, I met people who didn't know anybody who had been murdered. I had one friend who had a closed casket funeral, and now I'm looking at these young people, and I'm like, man, they're still going through these things. You know what I'm saying? And I think what I've learned is humility,
Mm,
and to be sensitive and be patient to that, and to never forget who I was at that age.
yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because we get our little degrees and our work experience
Yeah.
and our careers, and we get on a high horse and forget,
Hmm.
that we were also once 15 and ratchet.
Yep.
You feel me? And
Well,
and
not me,
so
but I dig it. Yes. Mhm.
yeah, that's right. You went to Western.
Yes, I
Yes, you're a
did.
Western Dove. Yes, you're a Western Dove. Yes,
What?
y'all,
What's
not
you
y'all,
look
not
on me?
y'all. Y'all wasn't ratchet.
Tough love. Um, no, but it's. Uh, can we go a little deeper with that? Because if someone were to ask you, how can art build bridges in what they view as a divided world? What would you say, or what examples would you give? Real examples that you give to prove that it can.
I mean, B-Side Bullets is a huge example for me. And then programs like MRI studios.
Yeah.
I think that when people have an outlet to come through and express themselves in the way that they feel, you build that bridge, because we can have like all this experience and recording and performing and all that stuff. And a lot of times the young people come in and sometimes it's their first time in the studio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So giving people that ability to step in with a blank canvas and express themselves, that opens the door right there. I think that builds the bridge right away. Because any artist will tell you that when they first got that taste of being able to express, that's when they got hooked. That's when they started to explore more and grow as an artist and started to ask questions and go experience stuff. So I think, yeah, providing that blank canvas for artists, I think is the I think is the best way.
This is, I hope this doesn't come across as like a big segue, but as you're speaking, I am reminded of your lived experience, and it makes me curious, especially from a journalist standpoint.
Hmm.
Easy, where do you get your information? Where do you get your truth when it comes to, you know, I tell people it's seven to eight key indicators of a healthy city, ranging from public safety to health, transportation. But as far as staying informed, and when I think about the Baltimore beat, there is so much information that's behind paywalls. Like
Hmm.
literally, there'll
Yeah.
be articles written, and you can tell that they've got the AP and the quotes, but I've got to pay $12.95, and it makes me think about, well, how does my mother or Keisha on Greenmount, like how do you stay informed?
I think trusted voices, um, in the field of journalism. I think when I look at uh, my Instagram timeline is full of people like Saul Williams and Joanne Reed.
Mhm.
Um, you know, but I think my community too. We are always talking about what's new, what's going on at Baltimore Beat. All of the journalists, the writers at the Beat, uh, are pretty tapped in, to the people. So I've kind of been able to surround myself with people who are not echoing clickbait.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or only listening to, like you said, paywall newspapers. And we're finding out a lot now that like a lot of those outlets are stealing from us. You know what I mean, and taking our stories and paying attention to what we're doing and then putting it out, as their own, which is a whole other issue that we can address at another time. But there's a lack of authenticity in a lot of the larger name news outlets today. Journalism is a field that's at high risk right now. You
Mm.
know, it's been much like music. It's been perverted. It's been diluted with capitalism, and large corporations buying up companies and controlling the narrative. It's unfortunate.
I'm thinking about the fact that you've worked with so many artists, creatives. You are a big collaborator. I'm 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 curious, is that a challenge? Or what are
Oh
the
yeah.
benefits of the collaborations?
Oh yeah. It's definitely a challenge. I'm always I try to stay open because people are unpredictable.
Yeah.
I'm unpredictable. But I think the beauty in collaboration is that there's always somebody there to collaborate with. I have the fortune of having grown up in a big family. So,
Mm,
so I am very familiar with teamwork. I'm familiar. I'm comfortable working in groups. I'm comfortable recognizing, all right, if you have this strength in something that I'm not as strong in, then I'm not going to try to do that. You know, that is your lane, and
mhm.
I will add to it with my strength that I do. So if I'm working on a song and I'm in the studio with a vocalist who's a better singer, I might write the lyrics and the melody, but you get in the booth and sing it the way you know it's going to sound good. You know what I'm saying? And one of my favorite collaborators, Dre Thompson, he's really good with hooks. You know what I'm saying? So if we're in the studio and the question is what's the hook going to be, I'm not going to fight Dre. If Dre start coming up with the hook, then Dre wrote the hook. You know what I'm saying? So for me, collaborating is beautiful. The challenge is that a lot of artists are selfish. A lot of
Mm.
artists are delusional, and
Oh,
it's kind of the gift and the curse. It kind of it's kind of what makes them beautiful because they live in a world that they're creating, but then sometimes they're not cognizant of the world that is actually existing around them. And
mhm.
so the challenge a lot of times that artists will burn bridges because they're anxious or uncomfortable or you know unwilling to unwilling to be that flexible in the
Mm.
group situation. And so that's the challenge because you can't really do anything about that. You know what I
No,
mean? Sometimes you got to let people be. And then sometimes you got to learn your own lesson. I've learned a lot trying to put together Epic Fam, and it didn't work out the way that I would have wanted it to work out, but it taught me a lot. Like I'm not, I don't have regrets. I'm glad that we did it because I needed to learn that. I need to learn and see those things.
yeah. Well, if I can, to benefit from your learning, you had said earlier that there are a lot of artists that come to Baltimore
Hmm.
and they're able to soak up, and then some of them leave. I'm
Hmm.
curious, can you describe to me what are they soaking up? That for people that don't know Baltimore, what is it that you believe is so unique about what's here that makes people come and we become the launching pad for them? Can you describe what that is?
Fearlessness.
Fearlessness?
Yeah. Baltimore, we're not scared of shit. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. Can I? Is it?
No, easy
Yeah.
talk. Yes.
We're not scared of nothing. You know what I mean? So it's like I think that people come here and they see that fearlessness, they see that unapologetic energy, and it inspires them to be fearless. It inspires them to be unapologetic. I don't think that you have too many places like Baltimore that are as unapologetic. We don't care nothing about you can have all of the money and stuff in the world, but if you phony, you're a fake person. We don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And we might take it from you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so it is I think that's what artists get when they come here. They learn courage, they learn fearlessness, they learn to be unapologetically themselves because that's who they meet when they come to Baltimore. You don't meet a lot of phony fake stuff here unless unless you're like unless you're like somebody who works a lot in like say like the world of politics. But the world of politics is about phony facades as a structure, as a
Yeah,
culture.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? But even then, some of our elected leaders, you think about the Elijah Cummings of the world and stuff like that, have been some of the realest,
Hmm.
to come out of here, So that's what I think. That's what I think they get here. I think they get fearlessness and that ability to be unapologetic.
It's funny. I'm thinking about your song "Unapologetically Black" as
Hmm.
you're speaking, and it's echoing in my. Y'all listen to that one too. It's interesting. Like you can go back in the days of like Harry Belafonte, uh,
Hmm.
as an artist, but also civil right involved on in the front lines. Can you has has the relationship between artist and organizing or civic engagement shifted in any way
For
in,
me,
for you and from your perspective?
yeah, I think we're literally walking into a renaissance moment, if not living in it right now, where I think that because of everything that's going on in the world, I think people are starting to wake up and realize that playing it safe is corny. You know what I mean? Playing the middle of the road is corny. You know what I'm saying? And it's time to start speaking up. For me personally, it took a while because I really enjoy being an organizer as a full time job, and I would kind of do like a Clark Kent Superman thing when I got off work, and then I'd be a rapper at night. And over the years, those worlds merged, to the point where I don't feel like there's a difference in my world and who I am. But I felt alone in that for a long time. But now I'm starting to see it shift a little bit. I'm starting to see people, you know, put more messages out there and change, their delivery in a way that's speaking more to the heart of like what people are actually experiencing.
So this question is, just bear with me here.
Hmm.
When you think about what it requires to have a healthy city, right? We were talking about the housing, public
Hmm.
transportation, health and wellness, social innovation. The list goes on. Where does your heart? What cause are you most passionate about and fighting to support here in Baltimore?
Um, I think I don't know. There's a few. I think youth engagement. I feel like when you asked me this on Friday, and whatever I was thinking at the moment, I think I put down there. But I think in this moment right now, I would say youth engagement. I think for me, I'm down to support anything that younger artists are doing, that younger activists are doing. Um, just because I know. See, for me, when I was younger and I was organizing, people didn't even know what a community organizer was. We didn't. A lot of people didn't find out what a community organizer was until Obama ran for office.
Yeah, you're right. No,
And so, and even in that space, a lot of times I was one of few, if not the only, black male organizer. So now you have a lot more young people that are organizers. You have a lot more young people who are independent artists. You have a lot more young people who are curating. You got a lot more young people who are, buying their own studio equipment and doing things that, they don't have to wait for anybody.
mhm.
So I think for me, that's a big one. I think political engagement is major. Baltimore, I think that people don't like we at Baltimore Beat. We just in April we did our 10-year anniversary issue of the uprising and the death of Freddie Gray.
Mhm.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that 10 years is not a lot of time, and that Baltimore is a fairly new voting demographic. when Freddie Gray and I know if anybody that knows me is listening, they know what I'm about to say because I say this all the time. When Freddie Gray was murdered, we had a mayor who was elected with a 12% voter turnout. So
Mhm,
12% of the voting adults in Baltimore came out to vote, and
mhm,
7% of them voted for that mayor.
mhm, mhm,
That number has increased significantly. Not only that, the amount of people on the ground doing work, doing community related work has increased significantly. We have a new voting demographic. So I think that for me, that's something else. I think that I'm always supporting and always kind of trying to engage in, but
mhm,
political engagement has benefited us. We've seen a decrease in crime and murder. We're seeing more people get opportunities, and there's still a whole lot of work to do. So my thing is, it's not a time to get complacent because there's still a whole lot of work to do. The police still get way too much money.
mhm.
We've got three of the most recent murders were uh, three black residents having mental health crisis. So while we're celebrating a decrease in murders and a decrease in crime, we're kind of brushing under the rug that the police are still problematic. And these
Understood.
things don't change unless we get active and we get engaged. So I think those are my two big things. It's like youth engagement and political engagement, getting the people involved and engaged in the process.
Can I ask you one? Well said. Um, I encounter people who they look to those in position that they view as position and power as the ones responsible for doing the work. How, what I don't even say it's your pitch. How do you motivate the civic engagement of the everyday person where they're not pointing at the senator or the mayor and they're like, no, you, Dion, just get up and do, like, how do you explain it to folks?
Well, I think I always try to remind people that those people are everyday people. They're people that, I mean, you don't have, and I've worked on a lot of campaigns. You don't have to be the smartest person to win a seat. You just have to win your seat. You don't have to know anything. I know some of the smartest elected officials. And I know some of them that, frankly, are some of the dumbest people that I've ever met in my life, but they know how to run a campaign. So there's nothing really special. There's nothing once you get in the room and you meet these people and you sit around these people, you find out that there's nothing really special about them. You know what I mean? They figure out, they know the game, they figure out how to play the game, and they're me and you. You and I could tomorrow decide that we want to run. And if we raise the right money and organize the right group of people, we win that seat. And so I think that people, when I talk to people, and I had to do this a lot when I worked for a union. I worked many years for 1199 SCIU, which is a healthcare workers union. And one of my jobs was as a political organizer to get our members engaged. And, and one of the things was having them come and sit in on our candidate interviews and come to these events and talk to these people, and that kills that for them a lot of times when they get to shake the person's hand and see them, look them in their eye and say, oh, they not, you know what I mean, they're just regular people. They
Yeah,
have dreams, they have hopes, they have family members, they have sicknesses, they have all kinds of things that you and I have. There's nothing really spectacular about them, so so once they realize that 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 extraordinary thing that they see in that person is also in them,
yeah.
then they get active.
Easy. Let me ask you, what do you want to be? And this isn't like you're going anywhere,
Mhm.
but you've made such a healthy contribution to date. What mark are you trying to leave? What have you given thought to that? What is your legacy moment? What are you building for?
Man, I think that I want. I want my first and foremost, I want my daughters to be able to walk in doors that were closed for me. I want my daughters to be able to and then have the tools to open doors for their next generation. Um, as far as a mark, I think that I think my biggest thing is that I want people to know that it's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn. It's okay to grow. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your habits. It's okay to grow. And I
Mm,
think one of the things for me was like assuming that everybody or most people had everything together. And it took tragedy. It took me losing my mother. It took me losing my brothers, my younger brothers, to really see that nobody's got it all figured out, and it's okay to be authentic. It's okay to be vulnerable. If that's where you're at that time. I think that's the mark that I want to leave. I think I want people to know that it's okay to be human. This is not an easy journey for any of us, and I think that when you when you try to oversimplify, or you know I don't what you know what this is my thing. Social media does this thing where we where something happens. Let's take for instance a woman was murdered in the McDonald's, right? And I think it was in Michigan. And you see people in the comments saying, oh, this woman was bullying the girl that murdered her, and y'all gotta watch how you treat people. And then you got people yelling at the people saying, why are you justifying a murder? And
mm,
then looking at it, and it's like everybody is oversimplifying all sides of this thing.
mm,
You know what I'm saying?
mm.
Because two things can be true at one time. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we have to. I think that I feel like I'm taking a long time to answer this
Oh, no, no,
question,
no.
but I
Keep.
really want to. I really want to leave that mark of, it's okay to be human. It's okay to process all of this. It's okay to have, you know, complicated opinions about things. It's okay to speak your truth, live your truth. It's okay to retreat. It's okay to, it's okay to be you. And I think that's one thing. Authenticity
Yeah,
is what is the mark that I want to leave. I want to leave that, authenticity is it's a part of it. It is our biggest one of our biggest assets, other than love, is our authenticity.
that's beautiful. That's a bar. Um, it's and I'm going to wrap up. It's just that as I'm looking at you, and I've shared with you, my brother's in the Navy. I see like some similarities, and like just to hear a black man speak so openly and with ease about being vulnerable, and you explaining that it came from having to experience tragedy.
Hmm.
How do you, like the young man that when we were at Beats Not Bullets, you asked the question, do you want to live? What do you hear from the youth as it relates to, their mental health, being open and vulnerable, and what are you seeing because you are listening?
So when we went to talk to the young brothers that are all being tried as adults, um, I remember one of them saying, "I think about it every day. What I could have done, what I should have done," and it's they hear the trick. It's like they hear the trick and the lies that they've been sold, like at a time when it's too late. you
Mm,
know, um, and well, for them, they may feel like it's too late, but they're so young that it's not. You know what I mean? They still have time to turn it around and grow. But I think that, yeah, I think when I hear from them is like, yeah, this is not all it's cracked up to be, and the image, and it's the same that was sold to us. When I was younger, we thought, being a part of a squad and carrying a gun and selling drugs and all that stuff. For us, it was selling drugs. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? For us, it was really like being on the block and getting money and that lie was dispelled when we when we actually got
Yeah.
in trouble. When we got locked up, when we did time, and you go in there and you see the conditions
Mhm.
down the bookends, you see the conditions in prison, and it's not what you want. So I think as a black man, we got to be honest, and I love the fact that there's groups in Baltimore, like I'm a big fan of the guy Uncle T, um,
Mhm,
and the Tendea family.
yes.
I love what they're doing because it's like they're keeping it all the way real with them. This is not going to take you nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And so I think in being vulnerable, you open the door for people to be comfortable with the truth. I don't have to hide behind this tough guy facade. I've been through a lot, so I know I'm tough. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to prove to somebody. I know that I'm tough. I don't have to prove to somebody that I'm tough. And in order for me to keep being tough, I might have to cry right now. You know what I'm saying? I might have to admit that this environment is not an environment I want to be in. So I'm gonna remove myself. I'm not coming to that particular get together because I'm not in a place to be there. Because I want to preserve my strength. I want to preserve who I am, and there's nothing wrong with
Damn. Easy,
that.
how do so for someone who's listening to this and this is their first time hearing from this guy, Eze Jackson, and they value what you do and how you do it, and they want to support you. I mean, down to Cash App. The reason that I'm serious, like the reason that we do the hashtag might be with these conversations because you're already doing the work on the ground without the resources, or I'm speaking, I'm not trying to speak for you,
Yeah,
but most who are doing the most impactful work are doing it with limited resources,
yeah.
multiple hats. So
Mhm.
how do the listeners here support you?
Cash App $ Easy Writer, Easy EWRITER. My Venmo is at Ezekiel Jackson 2. I got, like I said, I got three girls, two of them in college, so I can always
What?
use that. Yeah, I got two daughters in college.
Easy, you don't look like you got daughters in college.
Thank God. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yep, yep. I got two in college, and I'm so proud of them. My eldest daughter, Selah, is getting ready to do. She's getting ready to go and be on the road with the traveling play of Mrs. Doubtfire for like the next year. Yeah, and then my youngest is getting ready to go to the Baltimore School for the Arts, um, and in the fall. Also, like support Baltimore Beat. Baltimore Beat is a black led, black run nonprofit alternative newspaper. We got our fundraiser this Saturday at Current Space, but also we're just looking for people to you know subscribe $5 a month, and that keeps it free. That keeps it without a paywall for those that can't. And so, those are things that I think beats not bullets. If you're a grant writer out there, or if
Yeah.
you got a youth group that has some funding to bring us in, supporting beats not bullets, those initiatives definitely. Yeah, that's a way that they can support and stream the music, stream the hell out of the music. Uh, all of that,
Fine.
all of that helps me feed my babies. And you know, and I always I do want to say this is that I take a lot of pride in, you know, everything that I do, I want to do. I have worked jobs that I just felt like were meaningless, and you know, some of them could have paid more, might have paid me more. But if my soul wasn't happy, I couldn't do it. And so the universe, God, has been very generous in making sure that, you know, I'm taken care of. I don't, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not rich. I'm not, you know, by any means, nowhere near close to it. But I get to wake up and go to sleep every day knowing that what I did with my day was to help others and to contribute to the world. That's just my nature. That's who I am, and that's how I'll always be.
Damn. All right. On that note, just end it there. On that note, Easy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. And I hope this won't be the last time because there's still more to discuss. But again,
Yes,
I'm just proud of you and this Baltimore loves you. So
and
thank
thank you. I love Baltimore back. The city gave me everything. So yeah, I'm ride or die.
you. And that is hashtag my be more. What's the 410? We out. Peace.
I just want you to be great. I just want you to be great. I just want you to be great. Even if it means you gotta leave me and you don't wanna be baby. Look, baby, I'm straight. I just want you to be great. I just want you to be great. I just want you to be great.